Hello and welcome to Try It. This is part of the Entrepreneurship and Enterprise Program. I've left my contact details there. Today's workshop is going to be very, very interactive and fun, all about how to create a brand strategy with Fenella McCarthy, Director of Housebrands. And I'm going to hand it over to Fenella to just briefly introduce herself and what she does. But this is all how to create a brand strategy. So let me stop sharing my screen. And without further ado, Fenella, it's over to you.
Well, thank you very much. So, Fenella McCarthy and I co-run Housebrands, which is a brand and communication agency. But we also have an online version, which I am going to tell you all about. It's quite exciting, it's very new, and it's very innovative. But basically, my background is brands. And we're going to look at what a brand is, how you create one, and why you need one. Because I think, well, I know there's an awful lot of understanding about what the term brand means these days. But if you're going to go into business, if you're starting up, if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to run a business, then a good brand is the answer to your prayers, basically. It's what you need to do. I mean, if you take this Forbes, big American business magazine, as they say, your brand is the single most important investment you can make in your business, which is a very big statement. But if you are thinking about brand in its truest and fullest sense, then that will become apparent as to why they say that and why they think it's so important. So what I'm going to talk to you about is, what is a brand? What is it? Why do you need one? And how do you create one? And how do you do that easily when you're a startup or an entrepreneur? So what is a brand? Now, I would ordinarily ask people to come back to me and say what they think a brand is, but as we've only got one person, and I think he's on a bus at the moment, I'm going to not do that bit. So I will just go through, just think about what you think a brand is. And it's not a logo. An awful lot of people think that a brand is simply a logo. Well, a logo or a mark or an identity, which is more than that, is your typeface, your font, all your imagery, is much more, is part of a brand, but it's not the whole brand. How we like to define a brand is as a promise that must be kept. So what we mean by that is, a brand is saying to you, I am offering you this. This is my proposition. These are my benefits. This is what you're going to get out of this. And I promise that I will keep that. No matter when or where you interact with my brand, we will always fulfill that promise. And this is very important. Many years ago, there was a high street jewelers chain called Ratner's, which sold retail jewelry at a high street price. So gold and silver, it was real metal, but it wasn't, I think it was mass produced. But people liked it. It made it affordable to people. It was real quality metal. But Gerald Ratner one day was interviewed, and it was his wife's birthday coming up, and he was asked if he was going to buy her some of the jewelry from his shop, and he said, no, I wouldn't give her that old tat. And that single-handedly destroyed his brand, because he wasn't keeping a promise of good quality jewelry at a high street price. He was saying it was tat. He ended up, it was rebranded to Samuel, I think. He left the business. It was a disaster because he wasn't keeping his brand promise. And it's very important that you do that. And it has to permeate every element of your business, so that every time anyone interacts with your brand, they are understanding exactly what your brand is offering. So no matter whether you're showing an ad, or if it's an email, or it's a number of staff talking to people, or somebody serving you in a restaurant, a bar, a cafe, a hotel, everything they interact with, every perception they have must share that view, must reinforce what your brand stands for in their minds. For us, we like to use the analogy of a tree. So for us, the brand has two distinct parts. And if you think of a tree, there's underneath the ground, there's a huge network of roots, which essentially are the DNA of the tree. It's these root system that determines what the tree looks like, whether it has fruits or flowers, whether it's tall or short, whether it's deciduous or coniferous, whether it has red leaves or green leaves or any other color leaves for that matter. It's all defined by what you can't see, the root system under the ground. And in a sense, it's exactly the same with a brand. The roots represent your brand plan. Some people call it a brand strategy, some people call it a definition, but it's essentially what the shorthand, the actual core of what your brand represents. And it's your brand plan which determines what your brand looks like, how it speaks, how it acts, and how it looks. So your website, your identity, how your staff behave, how you behave with your customers, what you say to them, what you put in any email or any letter, all that is driven by your brand plan, which is why it is so important to get that right. And your brand plan will encapsulate, is really a sort of crystallization of what your whole organization, your brand is about. So you have your vision, which is what you're trying to achieve, and that is over and above the money. So in terms of TED Talks, it's about spreading ideas, spreading thoughts. Your mission is how you're going to realize that vision. And so with TED, it would be by hiring inspiring, creative thinkers who look at the world differently. Your values, they are how your brand behaves. And you would normally have 5 or 6 of those. And you want more than the standard, rather boring professional integrity. You might have things like constantly curious, meaning you think outside the box. You're always looking for different ways of doing things. It has to represent what is true to your brand. Your proposition, in a sense, those are the benefits, the overarching benefits that you give to your target audience. They can be rational and emotional. In fact, they should have an emotional element. The really famous one is Timotei, so mild you can wash your hair every day. There's both a rational element in that. You can wash your hair every day. That's a rational statement. And so mild is emotional. It's about gentleness and softness. So it has both within that proposition. And propositions often become straplines or the basis for a strapline. Personality, again, how your brand should express itself. So the tone of voice you would use in any communications, whether that is, the expert, whether it's witty, whether it's funny, whether it's sort of, approachable, all those elements, you need to define that so that all of your communication has a consistency to it. And then reasons to believe, which not every brand consultants have, but over the years we've realized how important these are, because they are the fundamental truths which you can say about your organization or your business, which allow you to create the brand plan that you create. So what it does is ensure, therefore, that your brand plan is rooted in reality, because otherwise you can say any old thing, we're the best in the world, but if you haven't got back that up with training or awards or using the highest quality ingredients or whatever it is that you do, then it's meaningless. So essentially, this is what a brand plan is. And this is a distillation of what your organization is about, what makes it different, and what you're trying to achieve. So it's very important that you get one of these, because without a plan, you really don't know where to go. It's very easy. And in today's world, we're bombarded with different communications. And if you just go off, ad nauseum, doing, I like that idea, we'll do that today, we'll do another idea tomorrow, you will simply confuse your audience. So you need this plan to ensure that you're always going forwards in the same direction, and you're not confusing your customer and potential customers, but you're actually engaging with them and resonating with them. Because what your plan does is it ensures that you set the right direction, i.e. every piece of communication must be driven by that brand plan, because then it gives you the basis for creating a strong brand. which will help you achieve your ambitions much more quickly. And, success will come more quickly if you are very clear about your brand and you use your brand effectively. So let's look at the benefits of having a strong brand. I mean, I've hinted at some already. You might want to think what you think they might be, but the shorthand is it's a passport to success, because you're making sure that everything is going in the same direction, is working together. Because with your brand plan, you get your brand story or narrative, and that gives you your elevator pitch. Your elevator pitch is the short, succinct summing up of your brand. If somebody asked you between two floors in a lift what your brand was about, you would be able to give a very compelling and cogent, quick story about who you are and why you're different. And you will get that from your brand plan. It will help you stand out from your competition, because it will show you what's unique and good about you and how you're better than your competitive set. It'll give you your key messages. What are the most important things you need to communicate to your brand? Those messages that will resonate with your customers, that they will find interesting and appealing, and that therefore they'll remember. And you don't need a whole pile, but if you're consistent about them, they will stick much more strongly with your audience. Your strap line, the propositions that I've just explained, is really the basis of your strap line. So it will help you. It'll either be your strap line, or it will help ensure that you create the best possible strap line, because it's about the key message, the key benefits that you're giving over. It'll give you your marketing strategy, both on and offline. It will be telling you who you need to talk to, how you need to talk to them, and what to say to them. And it also gives you the brief for all your activity, including your name, your branding or corporate identity, and your website brief. You really should do your brand strategy before you do any of those, because then you'll ensure that everything is working together. And that's the way you ensure success, because otherwise you confuse people. Now, I'm sure you all know about business plans. We're all sort of ruled by the bean counters, and I've got nothing against financial people. They are so important, and access to finance and loans, money is very, very important, and being able to do a business plan is. But it's only half of the story. The business plan will tell you who your target audience is in general terms, and how much you're going to take and what market share you're going to take. But it doesn't tell you how you're going to do that. And that's where the brand plan comes in, because it will give you, once you've worked through it, you will have defined what you're going to say, how you're going to do this, how you're different from everyone else, what your benefits are. It gives you the story to bring your business plan to life. And that's why it's so important to do those right at the very beginning. And of course, brands, they're created. They're not born. They don't come onto the market or this earth already formed and full and, complete. We have to create them. And what's really interesting is, of course, even the biggest brands started very small. So the household names you see on there, at one time were, just tiny. Marks and Spencer started as a small market stall, I think, in Leeds. John Lewis, Walls, Ben and Jerry's, they're not on there. They started in somebody's kitchen. They all start small, but what they've done is they have been true to their foundations. They've been very clear about what their brand is, and they have been able to build very clearly, because strong brands, they're always based in these firm foundations. They're unique, and they make sure they identify what makes them unique and then play on that and communicate that. They're tailored to their market. So it's not a one size fits all. A brand isn't something you can just pluck off the shelf. You have to build yourself and define yourself. And they're apt, they're right for the market, and your brand definition or plan is absolutely right for your organization and your organization alone. You can't just take somebody else's plan and use that. You have to develop it for yourself, because that's how you get clarity. And I don't know how many, I suspect a lot of you have been to a Disney theme park, but they're fantastic, whether you like the brand or not. They're a great example of knowing who they are, what they do, and why it matters. every single element of the Disney offer is really thought through and is made to be brand relevant. Even when you're standing in the queues outside, the staff, you have to smile, they have to engage in a certain way. It's all part of the brand story. And it reinforces what Disney is about, and the fun, the joy, the family day out of the Disney theme park. So they really reiterate what they do at every level, and that has helped them. They understand brand and branding, so it's really helped them to deliver the success they have. Because your brand plan needs to guide all your activity. Now, at the moment, obviously, you're thinking about starting up small businesses, so but internal brand is the same as your external brand. And as brands grow, they need to make sure that their staff communicate the same brand values as everybody else. So the brand needs to direct how you train staff, how you recruit them, and how you engage with them, because in many businesses, your people are your staff. And if they're not singing the same song, the same brand song as everyone else, it won't work. So the brand needs to direct that action as well. And I think it's more relevant to the people, this audience, is all the stuff you're doing externally, whether that's on social media, whether it's printed, any ads, any email, any brochure, any video, any events, any promotion, everything needs to reflect your brand definition, your brand values, your tone of voice, and your key messages. They should all be, it should be clear every time you see anything from your brand, exactly what it's about. And this helps you because eventually it saves you money. And doing that will help you, it's a sort of virtuous circle, or almost a helix. The clearer and more consistent your communications, the more supported and the better engaged your target audiences, your customers and potential customers will be. And it just goes round. The more consistent you are, the more compelling, the more people understand you, the more people understand you, the more they engage. And it goes on, so that you build your reputation and awareness more easily, and you have a much more sustainable business over the long term. So it's very important to do that, and it's a real help. It does make a difference on the bottom line. So in short, a strong brand, it does provide the focus for all marketing activity, whether that's new product development, innovation, communications. It will help build your brand equity more quickly and more effectively. And what I mean by brand equity is the positive perceptions that your brand has amongst its target audience, and the awareness. So it will help you build awareness and build equity much more quickly. It will help you make sure that you are communicating as effectively as possible, because it'll help you make sure that you're compelling, consistent, and coherent. If you look at your brand plan and use the key messages, the key reasons to believe that come out of that, the main tone of voice, you will be you'll find your communications resonate much more clearly with your audience. Because messages that are discordant, if one brand says one thing one day and another the next, people turn away because they get confused, and confusion leads to chaos. It'll help you make sure that you're very positively differentiated from the competition, so that you know what makes you different, what makes you special, and what makes you unique. And it's not about doing the competition down, but it's about communicating your strengths and your unique qualities, which the competition doesn't necessarily have. So you really understand what your competitive advantage is. And it helps create an emotional connection with customers. We touched on emotional aspects that brands have. The emotional content of a brand is incredibly important, and having an emotional connection with your customers makes them much more engaged, much more loyal, much more pro your brand. It's not just a mind, but it's hearts and minds, and you want to go for the heart. And by having a brand and having that emotional aspect, you will find it will work with your customers much more effectively, well, your target audience. And of course, if you're consistent, you will get cost efficiencies over the long term because you're not constantly trying to try new things and changing tack and wasting money and resource on that. It will help you develop those long-term consistencies. So in many ways, it's a no-brainer. Your brand plan is an essential component of success, because it makes it more likely and quicker and easier to achieve success. And that's looking at your vision, your mission, your values, your proposition, your personality, and importantly, your reasons to believe. So it will help you in the long term. So then we want to think about, how do you create your unique brand plan? So we've looked at a brand is much more than simply a logo. It's much more detailed than that. It's the DNA of your business. And the reason it's so important to develop a strong brand is because it will help you communicate and resonate with your audience much quicker and more effectively. So how do you do this? Does it, you've seen the elements that take part of it. Well, there's a whole industry which does this, and the classic approach is to hire consultants. So they will come in, and because each brand is unique, it's only pertinent to that particular business. It is a labor-intensive initiative to do. You'll get trained consultants, they'll come in, they'll interview staff, they'll run workshops, they'll have meetings, strategy sessions, discussion groups. They look at everything you're trying to achieve. And it's a great process, time consuming, lots of people running over the business. And it's what my brand, Housebrands, does. These are some of the people we've worked with. You get a good result. It's very enjoyable. It's enjoyable for us because we learn so much, but for the businesses, it's very useful because they get an objective outside opinion on their brand, which will help them hone it and shape it in a way which will help them achieve success. And it's really good because when you're running a business, it's often hard to find the time to look in more detail, to step back, to think about that bigger picture. So it forces them to do that. So, it's a great thing to do. And brands from all sizes, from countries, which I haven't got on there, but I've worked in countries like Rwanda and the Isle of Man and the Dominican Republic, looking at their brands. Right, but so do smaller businesses such as Cocoon, which is a leisure business, Lamprey Energy, which is an American oil and gas supplier, and charities as well, like World Horse Welfare. So all sorts of organizations, well, from every walk of life, know they need to look at their brand. And it's more than just a logo, but the logo is important. That's the recognition, but they work on their brands. But of course, there's one major snag. And I'm sure all of you can think what that snag might be. And it's, of course, the cost, because time is money. And hiring consultants to come in and crawl all over your business and help you work out what makes you different, special, and what you're trying to achieve isn't a cheap thing to do. And, here are some quotes from people we've talked to, particularly the smaller, leaner businesses, startups and entrepreneurs. It feels a bit like a luxury quite often. There's always so much to spend your money on when you're starting up a business or have a small business, that hiring consultants is just outside the reach. People would love to do it, but they have to be realistic. And it's all about keeping costs down. There is so much to spend your money on when you're an entrepreneur that you do as much as you can yourself. So this is a problem, and it's a problem for a business like ours when we're trying to help people do brands. It's expensive. So how do we do it? And we're Housebrands, we like a challenge. We like to think about how can we make effective brand consultancy available to all at a price anyone can afford. So the point of that question was, we asked ourselves, we have a lot of experience in brand building, brand creation, but there are a whole host of companies who may one day do very well, but they're struggling at the moment because they can't afford it. That doesn't seem fair when there's so much you can spend your money on. So we wriggled away with the solution, with the problem for quite a while, put our thinking caps on, and then bingo, we came up with a solution. And the solution combines today's technology, the fact that everybody can go online and access information with our in-depth knowledge of brand building. And the idea is to make brand planning accessible and affordable to all, even the smallest, leanest organization. And what it is it's an online DIY brand development toolkit that helps people create their unique brand plan themselves. And because they do it themselves, but guided through the system, it's a fraction of the cost of doing. I mean, because obviously hiring consultants runs into the thousands, and the more you have, the bigger the business, then the more you have to research you need to do and engagement you need to do, the bigger the cost. But this one, it uses all our experience and the way we run a program, and we've created from that, and it's the first of its kind, it is innovative, this comprehensive step-by-step program that people can run themselves, and all the questions are there, there are tips, there are examples, it's got interactive worksheets, full instructions, and you can just do it yourself, and it's written in plain English. And what I'm going to do is called What's Your Purpose. I'm going to show it to you now because it would be, I think, quite interesting for you to see. So let's hope this works. Moment of fear. And there we go. So let's see. So you enter, agree to the license agreement, and here we go. So we are now in our toolkit. So this is the brand development toolkit, which is aimed at entrepreneurs and small businesses like yours. So there's an introduction, which just tells you a bit about brand, and everywhere there are quotes and tips. And then we go into the first part, which explains brand definition. So essentially, it goes through, and perhaps a little bit more detail, though it is pretty succinct, what we've just been talking about. What is brand definition? What is a brand plan? And why is it important? So it's very simply written. So the idea is you would probably read this before you went into the interactive bit so that you know what you're doing, but you can always come back to it. It explains that you're defining your brand, and it's important because it will help you stand out. It will help you make sure every communication you do is on point and helping to build your brand, how you behave, speak, and act. So it's what we've been through. And then we introduce the model, and you'll recognize this because we just saw it. It's what we call our brand definition or brand plan model. It's vision, mission, values, proposition, personality, and reasons to believe. As you can see, there are tips down the side. You know, the best statements are short, unambiguous. And we give some examples there as well. And then it explains what this model is. And each one we go into a bit of detail and we use examples. So your vision, what is your brand aiming to achieve? That's what a vision is. And then we explain, your vision explains why your company exists, outlining what your brand is ultimately trying to achieve, the type of world it is trying to create, or the environment is working towards. You need to think big. And we give an example of the BBC to be the most creative organization in the world. So that helps you do that, but you don't worry, you get more tips later. We do the same with the mission, and again, we've used the example of the BBC. Then we talk about values. We explain, there's a little bit more in this. We explain what values are and the type of values you should have. Again, we've used the BBC so you can put it all together. So they have trust, audience focus, self-driven, creative, respectful, and collaborative. Talk about proposition, explaining about it's your benefits, and they have both a rational and emotional element. And we explain all about that. And the BBC didn't have one. So we've used L'Oreal, which is a very famous one. That's their strapline, because I'm worth it. But it is a proposition. It's saying, I value myself. I take care of myself. I'm going to give the best to myself so that I can be the best. So it's a great proposition. Then personality, again, we talk about that, and we give the example of Virgin. And then reasons to believe, as I mentioned, we think those are very important, and we've talked about what they are there. So that's simply the explanation of what it is. So the model is defined, and if you have this system, you can go back and look at it any time and use those. But now this is the program. So this is the second element. This is where the work is done. And it's, as I mentioned, it's a 4-step program, which is based around interactive worksheets. And again, you've got your tips down the side there, which you can read at any time. So the 4 steps are getting started, which very, very simple, just a bit of project management, just to get you in the mood and plan. Then there's preparing the groundwork, which is very important. And then you put that together in your brand definition. So these are the 2 where the big work is done. And then, like all good things, you come back and review and finalize it. So if we go briefly to step 1, all are written in the same way, what you're trying to do. So this is really about planning your project, and you're going to identify why you're doing this, what you're hoping to achieve, and when you're going to complete. And then why it's important. Well, when you're working for yourself, things like, it's very easy to put this kind of thing off. And if you don't put a date when you're going to complete it by, or when you're going to put the time to work on it, you probably won't do it. And that doesn't mean this takes a long time. I mean, you could easily do this in a week, probably over 2 weeks. You spend an hour on the first stage, 2 or 3 hours on the second and the third, and then the last one, leave it a few days, spend an hour or so. And that's all it would really take, but you need to make sure you spend that time. So what you're going to do? Well, you're going to start by thinking about why you're doing it. And there are some reasons which help you. We've got competition. We need to be clear about our key messages, whatever it is, and then draw up the timetable. And then here's the worksheet. So this is the first worksheet, and you can just fill in whatever you want in there, and you can fill in as much as you want or as little. Why are you doing the project? Okay, so I need a bit of help there, you might think. So we've got some examples. None of those might be right for you, but at least they help you think about what might work. You can put less. Then what are we hoping to achieve? We've just given a few here, 10% increase in brand awareness, 5% increase in sales, but you could put anything you want in there, anything that's relevant to you, and then you put your date in there. And that's all you have to do for the first one. So, it's pretty quick. You save, you can print that, you can download it, have a PDF, and then you move on to step 2. So that's just very, very easy, just mulling over. Then this one is preparing the groundwork. And this is where some real thought and unique aspects of your brand will come through, because you're thinking about 3 main things. What are the strengths of your organization or your offer? Who are your target audiences? And who are your competitors? And it's always important to know those factors, which I'm sure you'll know from other things, because if you don't know what your strengths are, you also don't know what your weaknesses are. And you can build up those strengths and minimize those weaknesses. You need to understand your target audiences, because you need to know what they're looking for. And you need to understand your competitors so that you can outsmart them. So here we tell you each one. Again, there's more capturing your strengths. Capturing your strengths. Here we're back at that. So it gives you all the examples of things that might be, and you can use your own, but what do you think your strengths of your brand? What are you most proud of? Then the next thing you're going to do is identify your target audiences. And that's deliberately plural. You don't just have one target audience. You will have customers, and they will be different. You might have you might have older, younger, might be different, male, female. I don't know, different if they come from different countries. I don't know. You'd have to think about that. Then you've got your staff, but you've also got potential investors, and any entrepreneur or new business will be thinking about those, and they will want to know very clearly what you're about and what your key messages are. So it's important you do this. And then the final one is your competition. And it's always good to remember, say, I always use this kind of example. If you're a florist selling flowers, your competitors won't just be other florists. They may be the off license, the local gift shop, the local deli. You have to think about why people are buying from you, and therefore what other your competitors are. Because if you're a florist and there's no other flower shops around, you might think I haven't got any competition, but you have, because if somebody's going for dinner, they might take something gorgeous to eat from a deli, they might take flowers, they might take wine, they might take a little gift, a candle or something. So there are lots of other potential competitors. So when you think about your competition, you do need to think much more broadly, and then you can narrow them down. So if we go into the worksheet now, you will see how this one works. And so reminds you you're doing three things: your strengths, your target audiences, and your competitors. So what are your strengths? And here you can just write a whole long list, but that might sound a bit scary if you haven't got any help. And because you haven't got a consultant teasing it out of you, here you've got all the questions you need to ask. You know, what makes your brand different? What are you most proud of? You know, type of work. You've got quantifiable training and skills, how your people behave, passion for what you do, whatever. Those are just start points so that you can think about and write as many as you can in here. Maybe you've got an idea, a gap in the market, nobody else has done it. Well, that's great, but you will have other strengths. And then, like all good sort of processes, if you think large, and then you need to pull in a bit and think, okay, of all this long list of strengths that I put in here, what are my three most important? And you fill that in, because then you're focusing again. So it's all about thinking big, then focusing, like any good project, you know, whether it's MPT, brand or whatever, they all work on the same process. Think big, then narrow down. Then there are your target audiences. So here you need to think of a target audience. So it could be customers. You need to think, what are they looking for? It could be, I don't know, vegan, you know, hot vegan food to have for lunch or whatever. And how does your brand answer that? Well, because it's home cooked, fresh cooked, better than anything else. I don't know what it might be. Depends on your individual business. But again, you have access to the information you had, so you don't have to go back and read it all. Again, it's start points. It won't give you the exact answer because the answer is unique to your brand, but it will help you think through how to do that. Then you can add as many as these as you want. So you will have more, you know, however many target audiences you've got. And then in each one, you will have who they are, what they're looking for, and how does your brand answer that need. And this is important because it really helps you when you're thinking about key messages and defining your brand. And then again with your competition, and remember, again, it's not just, you know, the analogy of the flower shop. It's not just other florists, it's all sorts of other things. You need to understand your competitors. So there's all the information about competitors there. You can have that less so you can focus. You do your long list of competitors, as many as you can think of, and then you select. Again, you narrow down. You think of the three most important. Who are they? What do they do well? And what do they not do so well? Because that's always good. And then you can answer the final question in this. When you've done that on the competition, what do you want your brand to do differently or better than your competition? And by looking at these three most important ones, it will really help you pull that out there. And then you save, print, and move on to step 3. So that was all the groundwork. That's all the thinking behind your brand and what makes it good, etc. And then in this section, you create your draft brand definition. Again, exactly the same. Why is it important? What you need to do. And you can go back to the worksheet we've just filled in anytime. But let's go through, and you're going to fill in essentially the model that we just saw, but for your brand. So you're going to do your vision, mission, and values, your proposition, your personality, and reasons to believe. And we tend to do vision, mission, and values at the same time. So, oh my goodness, what was a vision? You might be thinking. So you just press the guidance notes, and yes. And here it explains all about vision, mission, and values, because they work together. It's sometimes good to do, you don't have to, but good to do them together. And then there are tips down the side. And as well as that, we've got examples. So we've got EasyJet, you can see vision, mission, values, and the same with Innocent and IKEA and Royal Mail. So brands you'll know of and how their brand definition is. So that will help you by looking at them. It's not about copying, because again, your brand is unique, but it'll help you to do that. And then we can go back to worksheet 3, and then it works the same all the way through. So you've got your examples for vision, mission, and values. You can go to the guidance notes. We always say it's a good idea to have no more than 5 or 6 values, and you have to write what it means in the context of your company, because otherwise the words you choose, they just might not mean anything. You have to put it into the context of what you do as an organization. Same with proposition. So you go to the guidance notes, it explains to you exactly what a proposition is, so that you're very clear before you fill in that section. And then you can go through and you can see some examples of propositions for mostly companies, you'll know, but some smaller ones. So there are some retail for consumer facing and some business to business, because I don't know what kind of brand you have, but they will help you. And then you go back to your worksheet, and again you can do the same for personality, which is like they work well with the values, but again you need to have no more than 5 or 6 and say what they mean. And you've got the guidance notes, and the same with the reasons to believe. And then you save your data, you can print it, and you can go on. I'm in proposition, so let's go. Sorry, I'm on my laptop and it's a little bit more sweet. So there, we filled that in, we'll save it. You can then view your draft one. And when you view it as a draft, it comes out like this. So it's a sort of 1 page. You've got your tips down the side. And that's it to a large degree, except, as I'm sure you know, if ever you have to write an important piece of communication, whether that's an essay, a thesis, a presentation, a brochure, whatever, even an email, it's often good when you've written it as a draft that you then come back to it and you look at it in the cold light of day. And it's amazing how much quicker you can edit it then. And that's all this section really is. But what we've done again, because it's like having a brand consultant on your shoulder, we give you all the questions you need to ask. Is it an accurate summation? Does it sound right? Is it credible, achievable? Can you improve it in any way? Do the values really represent what you believe? So we give you all those questions to ask, and then you go and you will get your version. So you're back in a worksheet version, and you can edit it as much as you like, as many times as you like, until you're happy with it. And I would say there that, the temptation is always to think, is that perfect? Nothing is ever perfect. And it's better to have a working brand definition or brand plan, which is 95% right, than never finish anything because you're waiting for it to be 100% right. And you can change it anytime, but it's good to have it pretty much so that you can use it. And then you can review it, refine it. It comes up in your 1 page, finalize it, whatever, and then move forward. You can print, save, download the worksheets, and then moving forward. And then this is really just telling you how you can work it. It's a kind of resume of what we talked about at the beginning. So think about the issues, what are the main points, which will be your key messages. Look at all the way you're communicating at the moment. Are they consistent with what you've got? Have you got a website? Well, if you haven't, use it as a brief. But if you have, do you need to amend it in any way? What about your visual identity, your branding, your look and feel? Is that right now that you've done your brand definition, and so on? So it goes through everything you need to ask about. And then at the very end, you can get your finalized one, your 1 page, print it off, stick it on your wall, put it up everywhere, keep it on your laptop, and then you'll know exactly what you're doing. And that is the simplicity of that. So just to finalize, so we've seen that from current slide. So there was the system, and even better, we normally, now it's thousands of pounds to do that by consultants, but we retail that at £235. But very good news for anybody on this call from the Global Banking School is that we've done a deal with Annabelle, and we are offering it because you're all students at a 50% discount. So that would be £117.50. So that's, compared with thousands for consultants, is a pretty good offer. We will get the code to Annabelle, which will be circulated afterwards, because it's just an online code you need to put in. And if you have any questions, please get in touch. I'm very happy to show you more, to answer questions, and obviously I'll answer questions now if you want. But thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have found that interesting and helpful. So I'm going to stop sharing. Have I stopped sharing?
Yes.
Fantastic.
That's great. Thank you so much, Fenella. That was really great. I'm a big advocate for doing things strategically, and getting ahead of the curve and having a plan, so you know where you're at and where you're going. So that was a great exploration into everything, brand strategy, brand planning. So please, guys, on the call, feel free to unmute yourself and ask Fenella if you've got any questions. Um, that was a really great presentation, and I will circulate all of the information via email after this. The discount code for you guys, that's incredible discount. So please do take advantage of that. But has anyone got any questions? And I'll just put a few things in the chat. But yes, Fode, please go ahead.
Hi guys, hope you're all right.
Hi, Fode.
Thank you very much. I was just listening to what you were sharing. I'm new to business, to be honest, and starting this course, just I realized that I want to do more about it. So me and my missus, we like a family. We do a food business. We used to do it during COVID time, like once a week. What we do, we cook at home and then we tend to deliver it to people who wants it, customers, mainly to family and friends. And now since I started this course, this business entrepreneurship course, we wanna do it like a proper business. So we went through the council and get this hygiene, the environmental health come do the paperwork, and then we start advertising it on social media, and then we want to give it a go and see how it goes. But like you were saying regarding planning and your branding, we just use make our own like logo. Like you said, it's not the logo, it's how you emphasize things. So I've got notes of that. But I'm just asking, for me, we tend to do more of African food, which is more of Gambian food, because we realize there's not much around here in Huddersfield where I live that people don't do it. So I try something different, but it seems like people like it. But like you said, promoting the brand and getting it further in the market, how to go about it.
That your question, how to go about it?
Yes.
Well, I guess what you need, I mean, obviously you will have quite a few things that are unique about it. One of them is Gambian, but I think what you need to focus on, and you might want to develop a name after you've done, which sums up what it is or has an element of Gambia about it, but so that people understand it, and the strapline that goes with it. But you wouldn't, if you went through the process of looking at this brand plan, this brand definition, it would help you bring out what the key messages are. What is important about your business? Not just that it's Gambian food, but how you do it. You create it with love or care, or whatever it is. You have the expertise, Gambian nationals. It's how people eat in the home. I don't know what they are yet, because I can't tell you, because I don't have your I don't know your business well enough. But in a sense, that's what the toolkit is there to do, is to help you draw out what are those really important things which will people, your customers, as you said, they don't know much about Gambian food, but there are lots of different kind of food. So it's not just about Gambia, but that's one thing, but also about how you and your wife do it, and the expertise that you have there, and what you want to offer, you know, the home delivery, all that. It would help you draw those things about, so that when you then did some advertising or put some flyers in, I don't know, the local corner shop or wherever you're going to do that, so that you can build, that it would help you define what it should be. And yes, of course, you've done your logo, that's fine. I mean, a logo, and it's the meaning. I mean, I won't say that a logo is never important, it is, and it's good if you can do it after you've done your brand plan, but you can pour meaning into a logo. When we see those logos of Apple or Ben and Jerry's, it's not the logo that tells us everything. It's all we know about the brand, the communications we have had around it that add to it. And that's exactly what I'm going to say. A logo alone can't do everything. That's why you need everything else. So in a way, you know, the toolkit would be good for you to have a look at. You and your wife could do it together, and then you would have a very clear plan about what you want your business to do and how you're going to communicate what's good about it. Does that answer your question, Bodie? Oh. Hello?
Maybe it's the internet connection. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I thought I couldn't hear you then either.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I think
Everybody's gone.
yeah. I think, you know, if I think Fode has some connection issues, but you know, that was a great sort of intro to the next steps, I guess, that he could be taking for his for his business with his wife. So that's great. And yeah, thank you so much, Fenella, for
Oh,
you don't want it there, but like yeah, it was fine. It went really well. And I'm pretty sure everyone enjoyed it. I think Fode's back, but
oh, hi Fode.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes.
we can. Sorry, I was just saying, was that an answer to your question? Did it help what I said?
Yes, I said that really, really helps. Well, I said we also we build up a website that we put things on and start promoting our food there. We made flyers which we give about, and we make like QR codes that we use for our
Uh-huh.
menus, and we distribute it to people. We communicate via WhatsApp, and we make social media that people, and we start pulling some followers, and people start having there's a post that we do, we have like 11,000 views, and it's getting, I think it's getting better, and we started to get more customers from different background as well,
Sounds
which
great.
is helping. Yeah.
I think what if you've done all of that, it's still worth doing the brand plan, because it will help you look at each of those pieces of communication you're doing. And I'm not saying you need to redesign the whole website, but you might add on a few particular messages in there, or just might clarify it a bit. It might help you make your communications even clearer. Do you see what I mean? You know,
Yeah,
it should help you like that.
that's right.
Good.
Brilliant. Okay.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you for your question, Fode, and wishing you the best of luck with
Definitely.
your brand from
thank
now.
you.
And hopefully today's session, I'm sure it has been very useful for you. And thank you to Fenella again for a wonderful workshop and really kind of insightful information, as well as the fantastic discount code, which again I will distribute via email to everyone that registered. So yes, thank you very much, everyone, and I wish you a great afternoon.